this next topic is it's interesting, but also a reminder. This is going to be like my public service announcement for this Pat Solo podcast, Solo CU podcast. So, this came to me from my favorite website. It's my favorite. It's Nintendo Age. You know it. You know it. You love it. You love it. You love Nintendo Age. So there was an estate sale recently in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And who cares, an estate sale? Well, the reason I bring it up is because it was a vintage video game estate sale, basically. That was a big part of it. So, you have a video game collector that passes away. Who knows how old? Hopefully they lived a fulfilling life. Hopefully they were in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Doubt it, though. They're probably in their 50s, 40s. Maybe they had cancer. I don't know. I'm just going to speculate because, I think a large chunk of video game collectors are younger. When I say younger, I say under 50 versus over. Once you go over 50, it's more like Atari and television. But I'm generalizing, of course, because I know NES collectors that are big collectors that are over 50. But this could have been a seller as well, and it looks like it was, because if you look at this estate sale, they were a collector, but they also were a seller, a reseller. There's a picture here where, wow, Jesus. Well, first of all, there's a Tupperware that says eBay on it, which I think is funny. But then there's like those shells you usually see in garages, those metal shells you put together, metal poles and then the cross shells, where you can see, okay, there's like one ColecoVision in the box, but then there's like, wow, there's like four NES action sets. Then there's like looks like at least five boxed, maybe more, Super Nintendos. Then there's literally 8 N64s in the box. Yeah, this was a seller, not just a collector. Lots of stuff here. And there's an Odyssey. It's like 100 or 200 Pong set there. Another picture. It's kind of a sad picture. There's like 5 to 6 loose, probably in various states of disarray or need of repair, Super Scopes for the Super Nintendo. And another picture shows just a massive collection, a lot of games in Tupperwares. So it looks like this person might have been a seller, but also a collector. I don't know, though. Maybe they were just a collector. But let's assume they also were a seller. Let's just assume that and go from there, because it's a little bit different. And plus, because the Nintendo Age says it was from a personal collection. So I think they probably did both. They probably sold on the side, because why do you need 5 loose Super Scopes? But from the one picture, okay, that was probably their collection. There's a lot of stuff on wooden shelves. Everyone dies. Death is the one thing we have not figured out. We might in the future. They're trying to sort of figure out how to. I mean, they sort of singled out the gene that kind of controls aging and basically turns off the cell's function of being able to like reproduce themselves in the body. Because that's basically how we stay young, is that the cells reproduce more quickly than they die and deteriorate. When you get older, they don't replenish as quickly. I'm an awful person for trying to explain science to everyone and the human body. I'm sure someone in the comments can at least elucidate a little bit more. Maybe it has like a biology degree, but I just simplified it. So yeah, we're gonna die. We don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen unless one of you out there is an immortal and carries around a katana blade and cuts off people's heads and gains their power. But I doubt that. That'd be really cool, and I wish I was one of those. So when you go, you cannot bring stuff with you. This stuff will not go with me into the netherworld or the afterlife or wherever you think you're going to go, or the black void if you don't believe in an afterlife. I'd like to think personally, not to start in the comment section people railing back and forth, I'd like to think that our energy gets dispersed somewhere, and there's very, very slight evidence. Well, there is that we have some sort of energy in our body. We do. Maybe that goes somewhere into the universe, and maybe we're conscious of it, maybe we're not, but whatever. Whole point is, the games ain't coming with your spirit wherever that you go, or wherever spark of energy goes into the stars out there, returns to where we came from. It's not going with you. So as you get older, and I'm approaching that now as I'm rocketing towards middle age, even though I look so much younger thanks to my mom. Uh, decide when you get older, or when your life changes, whether you're getting married, having kids, or you're going to move, or you just get to that point, that breaking point where you want to sort of pare down stuff. You're going to have to decide at some point what you want to do with your stuff. Not just video game stuff. If you have comic books, if you have a lot of, AV equipment, maybe you're a big guy into collecting records, comic books, toys, what have you, is that at some point your material items, either you're going to have to get rid of them, or someone will get rid of them for you when you're dead, or in a coma, or dying of some disease. Hate to say it. Or you have to move right away because you owe child support and you're running away across the country because of it. No, it's not me. I'm just kidding. But either way, the stuff's going to have to go at some point to someone else. Either someone else who's a big collector, or the next generation, if there's going to be a next generation of video game collectors. So yeah, that's something I think about. But it's something you should think about too. It's actually something you should plan for. I'm not saying you got to go out and make a living will tomorrow about what happens when I die, what happens to these games. But just plan your life a little bit. I'm not saying you haven't, but if you haven't, think about, if I move, if something catastrophic happens, if I have to go, say, move across the country or move somewhere and take care of my parents because something bad happens, God forbid, or my wife gets sick or my husband gets sick, what do I do with all this stuff? What do I do with these hundreds and hundreds of pounds of material goods that might be worth money or someone else can enjoy or play? What do I do with that? And just think about that. Plan ahead. Or think, as Ian always tries to encourage me, maybe you get rid of it now. Maybe you start to think, well, maybe I really don't need to collect for 7 different game systems. Maybe I'll just keep one system and forget about the rest. That's always an option too. And there are other things in life than video game collecting, than video games. We know that. But it always comes down to what is the importance you place on it right now. Video games could be more important to you right now than maybe taking a good vacation a couple of times a year, a few times a year, if your money's tight. Maybe you can't afford that better car you'd like, or maybe you can't move out into a nicer apartment or get that mortgage because you're collecting video games. So, of course, these are all questions you have to ask yourself, hard questions. I'm not saying there's a right answer. It depends upon your situation. If you really get a lot of enjoyment out of collecting video games, then so be it. But I'll just sort of preface that by saying that you should also think about what else is in your life. And 20 years down the line, will this be something you regret? Will you regret having thousands of games and not being able to move into a better place? Or, being able to go on those vacations, or maybe being able to buy your girlfriend or spouse something they really want to provide for. Maybe your kid, putting your kid into a better school. Maybe there's a charter school or a private school around, or a Catholic school or whatever. Maybe that's better than your public school. Maybe it's average. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying this is you. I'm just saying maybe you have that conversation with yourself every now and then before you go off in the deep end. Now, of course, if you can't afford it, if you're living check to check, or you're barely paying your mortgage or rent, then yes, you should really pare down your collection and really have a budget and think about what you're doing with your expendable income, because at that point it ain't expendable. At that point, you can't. It's like I always say, like gambling. Only spend what you could afford to lose, not what you can't. When it comes to any hobby, that's a smart way to go, I think. So I'm not saying doom and gloom on retro game collecting or any video game collecting, but I'm just saying it wouldn't hurt to have these sort of conversations with yourself every now and then. And then maybe it stays the same. Maybe, you keep the same amount of games, or maybe you buy less in the future because you put aside, maybe you budget $180, $200 a month towards retro games. I'm just spitballing an amount. Maybe instead of that, you invested in something else, or you treat yourself and your spouse to a nice dinner out or a nice date, or you save that money for 5 months and go on a vacation somewhere and have a great life experience. You go around the world, at some point, or just, I don't know, you go to the Grand Canyon if you can't afford to go to, Ireland or Thailand or Japan or someplace nice, or Italy. I want to go to Italy this year. Hopefully I can make it happen if I have time. That's a whole other issue. Time. And that's reference to my Action 52 review. 4 people out there got that. So, yeah, I don't want to depress anyone. out there, but we're going to die. And we can't take this stuff with us, unfortunately. So, get that living will going right now. And I know people in the comments are going to be asking me to put you guys in my living will. But I'll probably leave it all to Frank, and you can go over to Frank's house and have a field day. I'll just throw the games all out and say, you have to wrestle each other for it. Whoever wrestles and pins each other in a tournament will win the NWC gold or something. I don't know.